Thank you for continuing being here. I would love to introduce our next speaker, who is Andrew Williamson. He is the Vice President and Economics Advisor at Huaweis Technologies. He is an international macroeconomist with extensive managerial, analytical, and business development experience in the delivery of tailored economic and business research to corporate, government, NGO, and academic clients. He has a comprehensive background in client-facing activities and research sales. Well-versed in overseeing projects involving large interdisciplinary teams, his current research and strategic focus centers on assessing country economic, financial, and operational risks to Huawei, as well as the economic contribution to the ICT sector. Please welcome Andrew Williamson.
Good morning, everybody, and greetings from Shenzhen in China. My name's Andrew Williamson, and I am the Vice President of Government Affairs and the Economic Advisor at Huaweis Technologies, one of China's leading technology companies. And it's a real honor to be asked to speak to you today at the AI for Climate Summit. What I really wanted to talk to you about was how Huawei, as a leading and major multinational company, is trying to contribute to this very important question about climate change. How are we using technology and information communication technologies at that to help the environment and help with climate change? And I think actually there's a really great story that comes from the company on this very issue. So really, I want to start by talking, from the kind of very macro, high level about, do information communication technologies actually have much to contribute about helping the environment? Well, we certainly think so, and I think the technology industry does as well. But you only have to go to the United Nations back in 2017, talking about the Sustainable Development Goals. And the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres actually said that he recognized for the 2030 agenda the great potential of global connectivity to spur human progress. So, there has been a lot of research that's been undertaken that tries to show the link between better connectivity and the benefits it then has on climate change, on the environment, and the wider sustainable development goals. So we'll talk there. And actually, Huawei has done a lot of research on this area. It's something that, we feel very passionate about and are greatly interested. And, we welcome attendees at this summit to visit our website and look at the research that we've published. Just last year in 2019, we produced the ICTs Sustainable Development Goals benchmark, and that took a lot of data from the Sustainable Development Goals in terms of where we are across over 50 countries in terms of reaching those goals, and we tested the correlation against development metrics in the ICT industry. And actually, we show a lot of kind of, relationship, strong correlation between the two. And actually, I've done some personal research that utilizes something called Preston Curves. This is something that was devised by a very famous economist called Samuel Preston back in the 1950s, I believe. And he actually, he measured GDP per capita against longevity, basically life expectancy across countries, and he found a very strong correlation between the two. And I actually tested this as well. I substituted GDP per capita for a measure of connectivity, so essentially broadband penetration across countries, and I found that there was an extremely high correlation between the two. And actually, the really good news is that when I tested this data from 2005 to 2010 to 2015, the correlation was getting ever stronger. So if you kind of substitute, there's this discussion that data is the new essential kind of flow in the economy If you test that and use a kind of a Preston curve framework to do that, you can see that certainly on education and healthcare, that the relationship remains very strong. And I tested that across something like 150 countries, and you'll see that hopefully in the research that we share with you all. So it's not just from our side. As I said, there's lots of academics that have shown the linkage. The United Nations as well is very supportive of the idea of technology being a really important conduit and supplier to helping with environmental problems and other sustainable development goals. But what is Huawei actually doing in this area? Well, actually, we have 3 priorities as a company in order to make this contribution, wider contribution to society and to the environment. And the first one is about technology. Okay, and as one of the world's leading companies in terms of supplying technological solutions, certainly in mobile connectivity and broadband connectivity, we want to make connectivity affordable and remove the coverage barriers through innovations in connectivity, AI, cloud, and mobile devices. So, that's one of the major contributions that we can do, and I'll talk about, how we do that. But we want to try and close the digital divide. We want to be able to provide connectivity to the whole world. Still half of the world, according to latest statistics from GSMA and the United Nations, suggest that still half of the world doesn't have good and decent access to the internet. The second priority rather is about skills. So it's not just enough to have digital infrastructure in place, but it's really important that we develop the skills base within society to make the best use of these digital tools. So we're very active around the world in terms of working with local governments, communities and organizations and other partners to help enhance the digital skills of society. And I'll come to specific example of how we do that very shortly. And then finally, on applications, this is something that isn't I think sufficiently discussed. We live in a world where we have ecosystems, certainly on smartphones, that tend to be very dominated by English language applications, come from a very small group of technology companies. There's so much more that could be done to kind of localize applications to fit in with local cultures, local languages, etc., and build domestic and independent ecosystems. So we work very hard to help countries and governments and business communities around the world to build out those digital ecosystems, help developers build applications for different types of communities and industries. So, let me give you one example of those kind of technology solutions. We're very proud of something that's called Rural Star. Actually, it's now in its second iteration. It's called Rural Star 2.0, and it's essentially a very cost-effective solution for a rollout of mobile connectivity in the developing world. Now, it's very difficult often to make the business case for independent private sector companies to connect sparsely populated parts of the world and those less economically developed ones. So Rural Star provides a solution that cuts the capital costs, the normal capital costs of rolling out base stations and antennae systems by over 50%, and greatly reduces the operational or maintenance costs as well of around the same amount. Now, it doesn't look very pretty in terms of the aesthetics, but it's highly effective. It's also solar power driven. Okay, so previously a lot of these kind of mobile stations, base stations, were using diesel generators. We provide a solution that uses solar power, okay, to the extent that actually those solar panels can provide additional electricity to the communities. And the impacts, we have a number of case studies that looks at the impacts of suddenly connecting rural communities. We have some case studies in Ghana, in Kenya, in Nigeria, countries like that. And as I say, the impact is really profound There's a particular study that we did in a village called Duza, a rural community in Kenya, that talked about having connectivity greatly enhanced security. Previously, they were hit by bandits quite frequently, and they couldn't contact the security services to tell them or provide warnings. So suddenly having connectivity meant that they could contact security services really effectively. What then happened is that suddenly healthcare really improved in the region because nurses and doctors were more willing to stay. They could also contact hospitals, access online medical records, information. Suddenly, as healthcare improved in the community, then you had children attending school far more often because both healthcare and security had improved. Teachers were also able to access curriculum, bring through textbooks, show classes online. And then you had, as a kind of, improvement in those three pillars, a real improvement in general economic activity. Individuals were also opening shops. They were using the M-Pesa e-money system from relations in the rest of Kenya, in the cities, to send money home. So suddenly you had all this dynamism, created this upward lift, virtuous circle in terms of development. Now, on IT skills, Huawei is very proud to have a project that's called the ICT Academy. So far, we've trained around 80,000 students from over 60 countries have participated in the project, and we provide best practice lectures and online courses to familiarize students with leading technology. It might be the engineering solutions, or it could be through programming or general kind of, access to information on the Internet of Things. And most of this is happening in the developing world. We're committing huge resources to this. We propose to spend at least $50 million in terms of promoting the ICT Academy. And as I said, it's really about kind of building out that digital awareness for all young people, especially, and digital skills moving forwards. And then on applications, this is a really great use of artificial intelligence. We have an application that's called StorySign, and it's been created specifically to help deaf children. We worked very closely with the European Union of the Deaf Society and the British Deaf Association. And what this does, it uses smartphone technology and high resolution camera capabilities at that. And the difficulty for deaf children is that they often find it difficult, much more challenging to learn to read, even with their parents by their side. It's very difficult for them to kind of learn words and language and learn to read through association, through hearing. So what StorySign does is that it has a cartoon character that helps the child, and it scans the words as you go through the book, and then it provides an animated character who can sign the words to the child. And apparently, it's revolutionary in terms of making parent-child reading much more fun, much more accessible, and has a very great impact on their ability to learn. Specifically, how are we applying artificial intelligence to help with climate change? Well, I think a great example that we have is what we call guardians. We repurpose old smartphones. We use the artificial intelligence specific chip technology and the microphones in those smartphones. We tie them up to solar panels and we plant them in rainforests. And this is happening all around the world, but the pioneering center for this was in Costa Rica. And what it does is that it listens. We use artificial intelligence to listen out. It's been trained through machine learning to listen out to hear the noises of illegal logging. It can also detect the calls of a wide variety of fauna and flora as well. So it's always listening. It's always listening to what's happening in the rainforest. And of course, if it detects anything untoward, it will send messages through to security services, to local government, in case that something untoward is happening. So as I say, this is been initially rolled out in Costa Rica, but it's been extended now to 10 countries around the world. A really effective way of using machine learning, artificial intelligence, to protect our rainforests. The company as well is very directed to reducing its own greenhouse gas emissions, and we do that really in 3 ways. The first scope is for us to reduce the direct emissions that we produce as a company. We are a very large company, revenues last year of around $120 billion US. We're present in 170 countries, so there's a lot that we should do in terms of mitigating and reducing our own carbon footprint. The second scope is to lower indirect emissions caused by purchased electricity and steam as much as possible. And then finally, scope 3, where probably we can make the biggest impact, is to encourage reductions in indirect emissions by supplier logistics and through the products that we actually produce. So how have we done that? Well, we continuously improve the energy efficiency of our products through lots of research and development, lots of innovation. We spent upwards of 20 billion almost in terms of research and development. A lot of that has been as a good news story about reducing overall energy consumption and footprint of our products. And 5G is a great example of that, because we've been able to greatly reduce power consumption and in terms of, in comparison to 4G, and I'll come to that. In terms of green operations, just last year we saved 50,000 megawatt hours in terms of our own operations. We use solar power stations for our factories, for our manufacturing plants, which generated 16,000 megawatt hours on their own. We've also introduced new energy buses that have reduced energy carbon emissions by 32,000 tons in the same period. And we also encourage our suppliers to implement energy conservation and emissions reduction plans. 20 suppliers took part and reduced their overall carbon dioxide emissions by 51,000 tons. So some of those, how are we doing that? I touched upon how we're using solar energy for our manufacturing plants. Well, we've now deployed PV plants in Dongguan, in Hangzhou and Nanjing, and they have a combined capacity of now 19.4 megawatts. And this has given us the capability to reduce our CO2 emissions by around 13,000 tons. We also adhere to, there's been lots of construction in terms of the growth of the company. Wherever we can, we use energy efficient buildings. Okay, so as we've revamped the offices, the manufacturing plants that the company has in China and around the world, we always try to adhere and hit the highest standards in terms of energy efficiency. We have 24-hour management in the lab. So what that means is that we utilize technologies like smart lighting, intelligent camera systems to make sure that we're using the best capabilities to keep energy consumption as low as is required. We use almost everywhere LED lamps in the office to reduce energy usage as well. And also we are employing lots of new ways that we can save energy in our production lines and through renovation as we manufacture our products. So overall, we've been able to, since 2012, we've been able to greatly reduce our greenhouse gas emissions in terms of our revenue. We've reduced it overall now per dollar of revenue that the company generates by almost 25% just in the short period, 6 years between 2012 and 2018. And let's talk about 5G, because, you know, although 5G gives everybody much greater capability in terms of connectivity, actually, you know, it's not an understood enough fact about 5G, that it's much less energy intensive because of the way it operates, the research and development that's being done, than 4G. So actually a really great way to help the planet would be to try and roll out 5G, substitute and replace 4G as quickly as possible. It's a lot of it is about the miniaturization, the usage of cell technology, much reduced material throughput into the overall product build and deployment. But as I say, it's you know, in terms of the technology, the beam forming capabilities of 5G means that per megabit of information that is transmitted and transported, we are looking already at a reduction of tenfold in terms of the required energy input. And we're not just doing this for the company. We have a number of projects around the world where we are helping deploy renewable energy solutions. Our smart PV products utilize artificial intelligence and programming to help reduce, as I say, greenhouse gas emissions and improve renewable energy solutions. So a good example is in Argentina. We have produced, we've helped deploy through our solar inverters and solar panel capabilities, big solar farms in Argentina. Provision of clean electricity was thus created for almost 170,000 households. Similar projects in Saudi Arabia have supplied electricity to 45,000 homes and reduced carbon dioxide emissions of 430,000 tons as well. So there's lots of ways that we can use solar energy, but using task-specific artificial intelligence, machine learning to operate those smart grid solutions. We can also use artificial intelligence and machine learning in many other aspects of our lives. So another great example is the work that we've done with Shenzhen Airport, one of the busiest airports in China, and we're using machine learning and artificial intelligence to greatly improve the efficiency of how the airport is run. So we're all familiar when we have to take a shuttle bus, it's often caused by delays in the landing of previous flights, but you know, that all produces excess greenhouse gas emissions. We have to take the shuttle bus from the terminal out to a distant part of the airport, unload, and likewise when a plane lands. And a lot of that was because it was still a pen and paper operation in terms of allocating landing slots and landing gates and sky bridges. So using artificial intelligence has greatly improved the flight punctuality and ability to get planes right to the terminal. And this, you know, this a small change like that has a big impact over a whole year. Shenzhen Airport estimates that it's removed the requirement for just over 2.5 million passengers over 2019 to use those ferry buses. So, you know, accumulatively, that's had a big impact. And many other parts of the operation of the airport have been improved in terms of energy consumption and efficiencies by the early application of those AI technologies. And then finally, let's talk about our smartphones. Okay, so perhaps unnoticed by most of our customers, but again, we are greatly using artificial intelligence, our dedicated chip technology to improve the efficiency, battery usage of those phones. So when measured over time on very common and popular apps like TikTok or EG Video or many others, we can share the statistics that show that we have greatly reduced the power consumption that's required by our latest phones, even just from 2015 to 2019, by over 50%. So that's a great kind of story as well, given the the ubiquity of smartphones around the world. Using better design, using research and development, using artificial intelligence is proven to be a very effective way of improving the efficiency and the energy consumption of those devices. So look, that's it from me. I hope some of that was interesting. I hope you really enjoy this summit. It's a very important topic, and Huawei's really proud to be making a big contribution on the environment and on climate change. So thank you very much.